Today, we're going to take a story that many of us feel we know inside and out, the Annunciation to Mary, or Maryam. But we're going to go much deeper than the familiar narrative. We're diving into a detailed theological examination guided by the incredible analysis of Ayatollah Javadi Amoli. The goal here is to really unpack the profound layers of meaning, the philosophical architecture that's hidden within just a few key verses of the Qur'an.
All right, let's look at our roadmap for this exploration. First, we'll tackle the mysterious angelic encounter itself. Then, we're going to decode the precise meaning of the divine spirit, which is crucial. After that, we'll examine Maryam's response as a model of perfect faith, explore the critical difference between appearance and reality, and finally, we'll get into the universal potential for sainthood.
So, let's start at the beginning with the event itself. And right away, we need to understand this isn't just a simple story. It's a moment that is absolutely packed with theological weight, and it all begins with a very specific and very mysterious visitor.
The Qur'anic verse sets a really vivid scene, doesn't it? The divine messenger doesn't show up as a vague light or some kind of winged figure. No, the Spirit takes the form of a complete, physically perfect man. And believe me, that choice of form is deliberate, and it is essential to everything that unfolds.
This immediately forces us to ask some really fundamental questions. Who or what is this spirit? Is it just the angel Gabriel? And why appear as a man, of all things? The source text uses these exact questions to launch a much, much deeper investigation into the very nature of divine action. Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating. The analysis digs deep into the Arabic term ruh, which we translate as spirit. And it turns out, this one little word carries multiple, very distinct meanings. Differentiating between them is absolutely critical if we want to precisely understand what is happening in this event.
So, the source makes it crystal clear that in this specific context, Ruh has two different jobs, and we can't mix them up. First, it refers to the divine messenger, the angel Gabriel. His job is to deliver the message. But second, it refers to the creative life force itself, that divine breath that actually becomes the soul of Jesus. The analysis is emphatic. These are two separate things.
And this right here, this brilliantly illustrates the core distinction. The spirit that appeared as a man was Gabriel, the messenger. His role was all about communication. But the spirit that was breathed into Maryam, well, that was the actual substance of Jesus' soul, a direct, unmediated act of divine creation. So you see, we have two completely separate roles, a messenger and a creation, both called Ruh.
So the crucial conclusion from the text is this. Gabriel did not transform into Jesus. He was the courier, the vehicle for the divine message. The soul of Jesus was an entirely separate and ontologically a higher creation, breathed directly by God into Maryam. Understanding that separation is absolutely fundamental to getting the theology of this event right.
Okay, so let's shift gears and look at Maryam's reaction. Because how she responds when a perfect man just suddenly appears before her, well, tells us everything about her immense spiritual status.
Her first words are just incredibly revealing. I mean, think about it. She doesn't scream, she doesn't panic, she doesn't even engage with the man on his own terms. Instead, her immediate reflexive action is to turn to God. She seeks refuge in the most merciful, appealing to a higher power that governs everything, including this man right in front of her.
This act actually has a name. It's called isti'adha, and it's so much more than just a prayer for help. It's a living expression of a worldview where God is the only true reality, the only real refuge no matter what your physical situation looks like. It just shows her complete and total trust in the divine. And this is the masterstroke of her faith. She sees a physical man, a potential threat, but her spiritual vision just pierces right through that appearance. She addresses the ultimate reality, God, and in doing so, she reveals her own spiritual perfection. It's incredible.
This theme of seeing beyond the surface is a huge philosophical point in the analysis. It takes Maryam's reaction and turns it into a powerful lesson for all of us.
So the source gives us two really critical concepts here. First, you have mahasus. That's everything we can see, hear, and touch, the world of outward appearances. Then you have makul. That's the underlying intelligible reality, the world of meaning and truth that you grasp with your spirit and your intellect. And here, we see her perfection in action. She perceived the mahsus, the man, but her entire being, her entire response was based on the makul, her unwavering connection to God.
She didn't let the sensory world dictate her response. The spiritual reality did.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea from centuries ago. The analysis draws a direct, critical line straight to our modern world. Think about television or cinema. We are constantly bombarded with powerful perceptible forms, the mahasus, that are explicitly not the intelligible truth. The text argues that becoming captivated by the image, mistaking the representation for reality, is a profound spiritual and intellectual mistake with some serious consequences.
So all of this brings us to the final takeaway from this analysis, and it addresses a profound theological question about the highest limits of spiritual achievement and how that relates to gender.
The concept we're talking about here is wilaya. It's often translated as sainthood or spiritual guardianship. Essentially, it represents the highest possible level of closeness to God, a station where a human being can literally become a conduit for divine action.
Now, this is such a powerful conclusion drawn from the source material. The analysis makes a very clear distinction. While specific religious functions like prophecy are described as being assigned to men, the ultimate potential for spiritual perfection, for achieving wilaya, is not limited by gender. Not at all. The path to sainthood is presented as universally accessible to everyone.
And Miriam and Fatima are presented as the ultimate proofs of this principle. Neither of them are prophets in the formal sense, but their spiritual station is described as being among the highest of all humanity. Their lives prove that women can and have reached the absolute pinnacle of spiritual realization.
So what does it all boil down to? The analysis concludes that the single most crucial factor that enabled Maryam's divine encounter was not her gender, but her perfected spiritual capacity, her purity, her devotion. These are qualities of the soul, and in this theological framework, the soul has no gender. And that means the highest spiritual stations are open to any human being who cultivates that inner reality. This kind of deep, forensic analysis of just a few verses really shows us that the stories we think are the most familiar can actually be gateways to these vast, incredible theological landscapes. It challenges us, really, to look beyond the surface of all the narratives we take for granted and to ask ourselves, what intelligible truth, what maqul, might be waiting for us just beneath the perceptible mahsus of the story?